Let's sit and have us a good conversation. Hey everybody, it's again Imra on Let's Sit and Have Us a Good Conversation. So today I would like to talk about trauma. Reason why I want to talk about trauma is because it is a big thing that it literally have a big part in our day-to-day lives, a big part in our lives in the future as well. Every last person on this earth has some type of trauma that they've been through. Not everybody speak about it. Some people do speak about it. Some people get through it, and some people choose to just put it in a box, scoot it somewhere in a man, and let it sit there. But the reason I talk about this is because when you take that trauma and just sit it on a shelf somewhere in your consciousness or in your heart or whatever you decide to do with it, if it's not talked about, if it's not something that you do about it, like it's not if it's not something that you do about, like, you know what, I need to deal with my trauma, I need to get through it, I need to speak about it, I need to be whole with it, I need to start finding answers and understanding about what I went through, how I feel about it, and how do I want to heal it, because trauma, it's so, it's like a disaster just waiting to happen. You have people that get into relationships full of trauma. They have been, and it's all types of trauma. You know, you have the kind that's rape trauma or being abused, you know, or be as a child seeing things that you should have never seen in at home. It's so many different types of trauma, and as little children, it's something that children cannot deal with, so they choose to scoot it to the side. But as you grow older and you get into relationships, those little things, sometimes you will have a little trigger there, and it'll take you back to that day where you was traumatized. So I've always said that I have to speak on this topic on my show or on my podcast because people, we have to heal, and starting with self can only help you be your greater self. So, if you have trauma, I feel that you should sit back, think think about what is it that bothered you, think about what is it that or who is it that failed you, and write it down, so you will start being able to release the trauma that has been taken over, you know, because in a relationship, when you bring that trauma in, then you start to blame your spouse for the things that you've seen when your spouse really has nothing to do with it. And it could be even trust trauma, you know, people that has broken your heart over the years of dating, and you bring all of that into your relationship, and instead of dealing with that before getting into a relationship with someone, you bring it into your life, and you're trying to understand, why is my relationship becoming so toxic, why is it like this, or why is it that way? It's because you are not healed. I've always felt that before anybody get in a relationship, they should be trauma free. Heal your trauma, heal the things that have bothered you, that turn you into a person that you're not. If you don't do that, you're going to start seeing all these things come up through relationship. Through, it's going to be times where you may start um, accepting treatment from people or loved ones that you shouldn't accept, but because maybe you grew up with a father that was, you know, that wasn't really there, that you didn't know how to be treated. Maybe you grew up with a domestic person with violence in your family. Maybe you grew up with rape in your family where somebody touched you in the wrong way, or anything that was done, because there's so many more, but anything that was done as you grow up and you get into relationships, then you start to be accepting things that aren't really okay. You will have a woman that would choose to still be with a man and he's treating her like crap. But because she was already used to being treated like crap from the men that raised her or the man that raised her, then she doesn't know her worth and she doesn't understand that this isn't right. And she ends up being okay with the treatment. And if she would have healed her trauma first, then she would be able to pinpoint every time she's not being treated right, pinpoint every time I don't have to accept this type of um, you know, treatment. And that's when you grow because and you grow into your greater self because now you know your worth. You know how you want to be treated. And the trauma no longer controls you. You know, I can give you another thing. How about a woman or a man that was raised without their father? They grow up feeling a void. They feel not loved. They try to understand why did my father just act like I never existed. So in a relationship, they grow up never feeling like they are wanted. So they so scared of detachment. Somebody that just run away and leave them. They scared of that feeling of somebody leaving because their father left them. You know, it's so many different types of trauma. You have the type of trauma of domestic violence, where you grew up seeing things that you should have never seen. And then as you grow up, you start to find little excuses of why this person that you idolize, your parent or your uncle or your auntie or whoever it is that you idolize, little excuses of why they did things. Because to you, it was okay in your world. But that's where I'm coming from. Is if it was anything that was done to you or something that you have seen that is trauma and you never dealt with it, please heal it first. Because getting into a relationship is only gonna do you bad or do your spouse bad. You know? So the point of today is heal through your trauma. Heal through your trauma. Heal through your trauma. Because it is devastating if you do not. To you, to your spouse, to the people around you. And then don't let you start having to raise children and they have to experience that same trauma that has been done to you. Because then you are causing generational curses to be put down onto your children. And that's just not fair to them. These children are pure souls. And whatever you put into those children is who they're going to be. So if you start with yourself first and be whole before you even decide to even be in a relationship, you will see a beautiful relationship come out of whatever you put into it because you chose to be whole first, not going into a relationship full of trauma. So, y'all have a good night and cheers to healing that trauma.